hunting process going for you?
The job hunting is not easy at all because after national service, we all want to finish and get a job, but the stress after national service is not easy. Writing application here and there, you're not getting a job. Some people promising you and failing, and that's how it is. It's not working for us. That's why we are here. It's not easy. When we came here, the queue was so long, but God willing, I happened to pass through the process. So we are just hoping to write the aptitude test and see what we'll get at the end. We are many. The whole Ghana recruited 2,000 is not enough because we have a lot of graduates who are not working, like just as myself, we are not working, nothing is going on. So recruiting 2,000 for me, I don't think it's enough, but at the end, it's Ghana for us. So.
Please, I'm begging you.
Yeah, don't worry. Just give us a phone, okay?
No.
Tears roll as some applicants get rejected in their bid to get enlisted into the Ghana Immigration Service.
Stop crying.
One of the major disqualification factors is height.
Very sad.
I couldn't meet the target with regards to the height.
Yeah. So those are just a few of the people who lined up with the hope of getting recruited into the security services at different centers across the country. And those numbers, the length of the queues, all seem to be indicative of something. But what is it? What exactly is looming beyond the horizon? Prof. Inin has spoken on this several times in the past. Keeps an eye on it. So let's start from there, Prof. From where you sit, is there something sinister on the horizon, looking at our unemployment situation, just based on what we saw yesterday?
Well, I think we've toyed with the demographics. If you look at the last couple of elections since the Fourth Republic, the demographic expansion in terms of the growth in the numbers, the youth bulge, has never been on any political party's radar as a potential threat to our existence and our livelihood, and therefore has been elevated and given the status and the importance that it deserves. Secondly, there has been a very deliberate manipulative process in which this youth bulge has been seen as a possible group that can be exploited for particular ends, voting and violence. Nevertheless, we've seen throughout the history of the Fourth Republic, tinkering, efforts by different political parties in power to establish all kinds of highfalutin, high-sounding youth, either employment or youth education or all kinds of youth schemes that have not made any dent in the numbers, the frustrations that we are looking at. So I think from where I sit, there are multiple challenges that are beginning to arise and already heading towards the tipping point. One relates to the nature of the violence and the conflict that we are seeing in this country. But closely related to the numbers or the demographic numbers overall, it's also the disturbing expansion, the unplanned expansion in our urban spaces without the appropriate and adequate social welfare infrastructure to take on board the tensions that arise when you have hundreds of thousands of people using the same space and unfortunately a reduced capacity of the state, that is the Republic of Ghana, to deliver public service goods. So we are seeing disturbing environmental degradation. We are seeing these urban spaces that beneath the veneer of a Ghana on the lower ranks of middle income status, expanding shanty towns in which identity is almost lost. So we have this heaving mass of individuals with no particular identity or attachment to any specific place that creates the groundedness and a sense of belonging. So these groups of people that we see don't owe allegiance to anybody, not to the Republic of Ghana, not to any particular religious faith, not to any ethnic group, and then neither to any political party or ideology. So we are looking at changes in the way that this heaving mass will transform the nature of conflict as we see. And we are beginning to see it already. Kidnappings will continue, murders will continue, the use of all forms of offensive implements as tools for resolving conflicts are going to continue. But we are also going to see how these numbers are going to change our conceptions and understanding of national power. So as I've argued earlier on, politicians throughout our, probably with the exception of the Nkrumah and the Achampon regimes, who had a certain conception as to what to do about the youth crisis. Dr. Buzia had a clear vision of family planning as a contributory factor in having a more managed growth. That was discarded. The Prime Minister abused and ridiculed. Songs made about him and his family. So since then, we've seen a very lackadaisical approach to tackling the youth problem. So we are seeing that it is beginning to impact and affect the nature of national power. Right. And how so? Because of particular concentrations in particular areas, the speed and ease with which they can be mobilized to do all kinds of things, but also the shifting opportunistic alliances that we see, which unfortunately the political class thinks it inures to their short-term benefit, particularly during elections, and particularly during when they mobilize them to intimidate their opponents. Finally, relates to the multiple sources of violence that will arise from this group. Badly educated, unemployed, increasingly unemployable, having access to smartphones and of course social media, where they can then have access to information, predominantly fake ones sometimes, but then also that gives them a certain conception of were I to migrate and move elsewhere, maybe it is much better out there. So we are looking at a conglomeration of potential threats. And I think we are heading towards the tipping point. You see, when you have a country where the youth are willing and prepared to fight over access to public toilets and to tearing paper for those who are using those public toilets and are seizing access to public transport yards, then it just shows you the scale of the problem. And I think we are having some of our leaders being cognizant of this, making the noises, but the correlation between the noise making or the utterances and then the ability to put in place specific policies that can bring about substantial, sustainable change and betterment of their lives is really very weak.
So let's see if we can get quantitative here. Are we looking at a situation that requires action from national security? What should that action be, if yes? And if no, then how far away are we from such a point?
I am not sure the context in which we are using national security. Probably we should use the National Security Council.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's
which,
what I mean.
Yes, the council, yes, headed by the president, his core ministers, and securocrats will then place this on the agenda and say, look, and I like the use of the word quantitative from your side. Can we disaggregate where these choke points are? Okay, what are the numbers? What are the gender disaggregation? What are the educational background? What are the aspirational expectations of these people? What can we do in terms of the disaggregation in identifying specifically what individuals can do? And I want us to use the terminology National Security Council, because national security itself as an institution has lost credibility. Its ability to do the analysis, because we ought not to have reached where we are. Okay, so we are also looking at the quality of the analysis and the assessments, and that independent civil service role in providing options to government, for government to respond to what is perceived as a problem in, say, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. So I think this is one of the things that needs to be put on the agenda.
Yeah.
National Security Council, should they take note? It's got to be right on top of the agenda, because the numbers that we have seen, and we've seen this from last year, every time there is an announcement of sorts, people flood. And it's not because they love the service. Because if we look at why people went into these services in the 1960s and the 1970s, it was because people loved the service. There was a certain sense of loyalty. There was an honor in wearing the uniform. There was people were willing to subject themselves to the discipline and the training. You cannot seek employment with sex or immigration and you have the audacity to say on live TV that you want to become a billionaire. Except if you want to steal. Except if you want to see this state institution as a conduit for extorting money. Now, when such a person seeks to enter a state security institution driven purely by pecuniary interest, then this individual, as he or she rises through the ranks, will be prepared to sell the secrets of the state and our collectives of survival to the highest bidder. But there's also one small, should they place this on the agenda? Yes. When do we start in the process of recruitment? When do we start making the sift so that we don't even get people who want to become billionaires? Even millionaires will be a criminal thought. Or the dream of earning hundreds of thousands is unacceptable. But how do we profile these massive numbers? Some will definitely slip through the net. Yeah. But it sounds to me, and from last year, when you listen to the videos that people made and what people were saying, that loyalty to the state hardly plays any role. It is the individual's drive to survive and to have a job by all means. And the vision and the mission of that job is not important. I want a roof over my head. I mean, it's very normal. It's an understandable human desire. But I think therein lies the potential for some very serious and disturbing things to happen. And I think National Security Secretariat must be preparing the appropriate documents and sending it to the individual institutions represented on the council to place it on the agenda. This is a dangerous development.
Prof, you point out that we have a group of people seeking employment in our security services whose motivation is counterintuitive to what the security service requires.
Yeah.
So if, say, the commandant for Ghana Police, training school, or Ghana Fire Service or immigration training schools are watching and listening, what should they start thinking about right now, bearing in mind the more mercenary motivation of this year's recruit, or these recent years' recruits? What should they be thinking? What should change in how we train these young people?
Well, I don't think it's just about the training. First and foremost is that they need to be thinking, for how long have we got mercenary-driven individuals into our respective services? And I like your usage of the word mercenary, because in the last 5 to 10 years, we are seeing the fraying of the institutional cultures across board. So if you go to the Ghana Police Service, for example, immigration, customs, and they were to be honest with us and to say, look, what types of disciplinary problems or cases are you dealing with? What percentage relates to theft? What percentage relates to leaking sensitive national security information to the highest bidder? To what extent has the institution been infiltrated and people colluding with others? And in the last 5 years, I think if we do a random sampling of when the police has clashed with the military, when the police is clashing with customs, police with immigration, customs against immigration, it is not because the clash is about the rapidity and the effectiveness of responding both to an internal or an external challenge. These clashes arise primarily because people have been arrested who have had the temerity to make a call. So once national security institution arrests a group of criminals, another one is called, and then there is the clash. And I think we've heard quite a number of these cases. So what we are hearing in the last couple of months about people aspiring to entering this institution purely for mercenarism and purely for organized crime purposes actually has a historicity to it. Okay, I think successive leaders of different security institutions have failed to grasp and deal with, the criminality that pervades these institutions. So the expectation that I can get into customs, immigration, and then I will become wealthy also undermines our understandings and conceptions around the notions of public service. Now that sacrifice in serving the state, in saying the state has invested in me and I want to give something back, it's almost gone. But it's a much wider problem than just the youth.
Wow.
As leaders, we have collectively failed. That leadership as providing the moral compass and integrity for implementing collective goods that improve people's lives has been subjected to the individual selfish interest. And that is what these youth are beginning to pick up. But it's not just that. We, in the last decade or so, there have been concerns, and this relates to my third point about how these numbers and youth groups can influence sources of future conflict, but also power dynamics.
Yeah.
And this relates to ethnic balances within these institutions. Are we basing the selection, the examination, the rigor based on merits and the grander vision of Ghana Incorporated. Or sometimes we are seeing that these processes that ought to be technocratic are subjected to limited, ethnic, chauvinistic, interest. So the potential for violence, for conflicts are forever present. But were I to have a say, and I think I wrote about this last year in a major publication in Copenhagen, that the demographics tied in to the climatic shifts and changes will become the biggest challenges that we are facing in the next decade or two.
Well, if you just joined us, it's a Super Morning Show. We're talking to Professor Kwesi Enin, and it's all about the images we saw yesterday of people teaming up at recruitment centers, hoping to find their way into our security services. Well, is this a herald of something sinister to come? We're assessing the size of the problem.
Professor Enin, this is Mama V. I want you to talk to us about the criteria for recruitment, i.e. height, the stretch bags, the tattoos. What do you make of it?
When I saw that, it came back to the conversations that we had about Rastafarianism. And sometimes I have this sense that as a nation, we have multiple rules and regulations for particular sets of individuals. We have seen people in military-style uniform or police-style uniform who have tattoos, who have beards, who have ponytails. So where are these people coming from? Who recruited them into those services? Or are there secret rules that we don't know? Maybe I don't have a problem if rules are applied consistently over time. Institutions develop their own internal cultures that they project to the wider populace that then gets respect, trust, and then collaboration and cooperation. But when citizens feel that the rules and regulations governing the institutional cultures themselves are fiddled with, undermined, and thrown away when it suits particular situations and particular interest groups, then I begin to shudder and to wonder, about the survivability of those institutions themselves. Because were we to do a random sampling and you put your camera around to some of these institutions, I'm sure you will see some very interesting things. Okay, so the rules are there, but over time, they've been undermined, they've been put aside, so that the institutional ethos, the culture that must drive institutional and individual behavior is no more existent. So the rules are there, yes. But as to does being shot limit your capacity to do the analysis? I'm not a particularly tall man, so should an educational institution have turned me down for the job that I am doing? And the answer is a resounding no. Okay, so Mama V, I think your question is so important. How do we uphold the principles and the values inherent in institutional cultures?
But is it time to review, to scrap these? What's the point? I'm short,
There's
and
no
so
point.
what? I mean, it's a digital
There's no
era.
point. No, I stammer. So does that make me a bad officer in the Ghana Armed Forces? Because I stammer, would Will customs have said no? Because I stammer, will immigration have said no? Will that have, or will the National Intelligence Bureau have said no because I stammer? No. There are fundamental issues that we need to be tackling as a nation. And certainly being short, having rasta, stammering, having a tattoo does not contribute to the effectiveness or otherwise of institutional performance. I know they will say, oh, but there are rules and regulations, and therefore we are a hierarchical institution. Yes, they use the rules. But when that same hierarchical institution is incapable of using the established rules over time, consistently, in an objective manner, then I think the rules mean very little. And this cuts across board. Let's have institutions that have a clear vision and a focus of what they seek to achieve and attain. And also recognize the diversity or the diversities that people bring into those institutions.
Now, Prof, I mean, as a securocrat, is there actually a practical consideration for some of these rules? I mean, was there a reason once upon a time why the security services would not recruit a person who has stretch marks, for example? Is there some practical education about why that would not have made someone an ideal recruit?
No. The original thinking behind, military stature or posturing was about people being tough, in inverted commas, perfect. That sent signals of what the state's posture was with respect to the threats that it faced. Okay, but that has never stopped people, even who didn't meet those marks, from doing what they ought to do. So if we take the Yasantua story, I mean, she broke the rules. Egwaba Bravo of Cape Coast, at the Queen Mother, broke the rules, took up guns, organized women for the British, went to the shore, renegotiated, trading relations. So even established rules in times of crisis have been changed either peacefully or through resistance. And particularly in a situation that we face right now. Truly, how does stretch marks allow somebody to design a solid criteria for profiling the extremists who are threatening us? How does my tattoo on my back prevent me from doing the analysis that will allow us to understand the changing dynamics of what this youth board means for us? So I think when institutions fail, then they become petty in trying to drive people away. And I think quite a number of these regulations right now, to be honest, are very petty, and they don't contribute to bringing the very best into those institutions and delivering the public security that we are looking for.
Right. Prof, we have less than a minute to go, but there's one thing I wanted you to clarify for us. You made a point earlier. You said that we need to look to the National Security Council for action at this point because national security has lost credibility. You said that they should have foreseen this current situation. Prof, just in about 30 seconds, can you expand on that? How could they possibly, or how do we know they didn't foresee this situation?
Well, if they foresaw it and did the analysis and provided options for intervention, then the council has failed us. The secretariat is the technocratic, bureaucratic arm with the analysts who go out there and do the projections and the options for intervention and response that the council made up of the politicians and the heads of the security agencies will then have to relate to. If the Secretariat did that, and the council has failed over the last 6, 7, 8 years to respond, then the council has failed us. If the Secretariat has not prepared the documents, then they have failed, and we need a better Secretariat instead of going to town and beating people and shooting.
Thank you very much for that, and thanks for spending your time with us this morning. We appreciate the enlightening
It's always a great
contribution. Indeed.
And I like your tie and I like your shirt.
Oh, you're very
Looks
kind.
very
Oh dear, I've passed Prof. Ening's security check. Thank goodness. Professor Kwesi Ening, of course, is the director of the forgive me, I've lost that. Professor Kwesi Ening is the director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, KIPTC. Right. Well, we've certainly got other aspects of this conversation to explore. The economic aspects of it. What are we really looking at by way of numbers? Are we making a dent in the problem at all with exercises like yesterday's? And if we are not, then what will make a dent? What's Ghana's unemployment situation going to look like 10 years from now, assuming we continue just as we are? We'll be speaking to other technocrats to get an idea of this after these messages.
Coffee in your cup and Joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best on Joy 99.7 FM.
Are you looking to source for fresh quality fruits and vegetables? Connect with the right agribusiness actors and explore opportunities in the horticulture sector. Then, be at this year's Fruits and Vegetable Fair happening at the Afua Sutherland's Children's Park from Thursday, October 28th to Saturday, October 30th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. Theme: Enhancing Horticulture Trade Patterns in the COVID-19 era. There will be seminars on food safety and horticulture-related challenges. Catch us live on Facebook and Instagram. The fair is in partnership with the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Soko Center, Wapcom Media, and Agric Today. Attendance is free. Come one, come all.
Center of the world and home to the headquarters of the AFCFTA. Abundant resources and limitless opportunities for business and investment. A great story of growth and attractive returns in a fast transforming country. Be part of this great opportunity and optimism. Invest in Ghana. Make it happen with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC. Connect, let's talk, and guide you through numerous incentive packages for investment. We are open and ready for partnerships to grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. Locate us at Vivo Place Cantonment Accra or call us 0302 665 12529. Online at www